This is a print back from 2008 when Ryonet first started using and teaching about Separation Studio and AccuRIP. Through the years, we've helped thousands of screen printers use it to really make their separations easy and high quality. But guess what? It's back and it's better and easier to use than ever. So today, we're gonna jump in and do a brand new design using Separation Studio NXT and AccuRIP. Separation Studio is great for handling full color artwork separations, like this band photo from back in the day. Now, if I was gonna handle this manually in Photoshop, it'd kind of be a pain in the ass and I really need to know what I'm doing. But Separation Studio will show you how easy it is to use. Now, before we open the file, we wanna make sure this file is sized properly to the right size and resolution. So this is 11-inch print by 300 DPI. We can save that as a TIFF. I can save that as a PNG or JPEG. TIFFs are a little bit higher quality, so I saved it as a TIFF. Once I've got my account set up here on Solutions for Screen Printers, I simply go to my downloaders and I download the first time installer, not the update installer. We'll handle that in a later video. And then I go to my license manager and then I can see my active licenses right here or activate a new license. We'll open up Separation Studio and it gives us this blank screen. All we have to do is go to open the file. And as soon as it opens, it asks me what I want. Today I'm doing a spot process separation, which is the most common separation. We'll get into some of the other types of separations in later videos. Simply open up and then it separates. Now when spot process separates it, it uses a specific color set and separates it into a base, a red, a blue, a gold, a purple, a green, a turquoise, a gray, and a final white every single time. Now I don't want to print 9 colors today, so I'm going to break this down into 6 colors and show you how I do that. The first thing I do is get rid of colors that aren't active. So we're gonna click on this green, double click it. You can see this as a film, so you can see if there's any information there, or you can see this is ink. Now you're not gonna see any green ink on a black shirt. So I can see there is a little bit of information there. So I'm actually gonna merge that with another color. So I'm gonna merge that with the light color of, let's say, our blue. It has similar color details there. So I'm gonna merge the green down to the blue, just simply by dragging it over. Okay, there we go there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the turquoise. So we have a little turquoise. I'm gonna merge that down with the blue too. So I take the power merge that into the blue. Now we're down to 7 colors. There is information in the gray, and I do like using a gray when you can have the screens, but since we're on a 6-color press, we're gonna merge the gray into the bottom white. So we're gonna take the gray, power merge it into the bottom white. So we still have that information, but it's underneath instead of on top. And that leaves us with 6 colors: white, red, blue, gold, a purple, and a final white. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're actually gonna choose the colors that we're printing. Spot process colors are Pantone mixed colors. And today we're gonna be using our Wilflex Real inks. And so we actually have those inks preloaded into Separation Studio, along with other inks such as FN Inks and Green Galaxy inks. But today we're using Wilflex. So all we have to do to change out our ink color set is select the color on the right side that we want to use, start with National Red, and pull that in to the red channel. You can see that change. I don't love it, honestly, so I'm gonna go with something a little bit brighter. Let's pull in the Rio Scarlet. Here we go. All right. Definitely brightens it up a bit. Then we're gonna go to the blue. We're gonna go with a standard royal blue, so the Rio Royal Blue. Bring that there. My hair is not gold, it's blonde. I'm gonna go with a little bit lighter color here because this is also a skin tone. So I'm gonna go with the lemon yellow. And the cool thing is you see this change on screen. The great thing about Separation Studio is it actually reads the color very similarly to how it's gonna look on press as long as you're using the right meshes. And then with the purple, an electric purple here. So now we got all of our colors and we're gonna make our adjustments. I'm gonna start out with our white base. Now, I typically wanna bring my white colors to a full opacity if it's a spot color like this Ryonet. Right now it's got about 80% opacity, meaning that that's gonna halftone that. I don't wanna halftone that, so I'm gonna make my adjustments to bring that all the way up. So I simply go to my high saturation and bring that up to where I hold my cursor over it and I can see 99 or 100 in the bottom. So I got 100 on the bottom right there. That means it's fully opaque, no halftones in it. You just bring that back a little bit to give me a nice underbase and hit OK. And you can see the full print come together. It's gonna start to look a little bit more pastel because I really built up that underbase. So I'm gonna do the opposite with the top channel. The top channel over here already has 100 in the opaque part. That's good. But I don't wanna print all this white over our faces because it's gonna really pastel these out. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna adjust this. I'm gonna bring the other side down. So I'm gonna use the low saturation and bring it down So I'll bring up those areas a little bit and get rid of the white in the faces. That's looking more natural. The next thing I'm gonna do is with the color channels, I'm simply gonna just boost these up. I like to do this as all the colors are turned on so that it gives me the ability to see what's happening. So I'm gonna boost up the red a little bit, the blue, I'm gonna boost up the purple. I'm gonna do the yellow last because that yellow's in the skin tones, and whether you're doing spot process printing, sim process printing, 4-color process, skin tones are always the hardest to deal with. And then I'm just gonna take a look at the skin tones just to make sure. I'm gonna have a little bit yellow so you can see what happens if I go way too yellow on these skin tones. Ooh, way too yellow, obviously. Too yellow, too yellow. I'm gonna boost up just a little bit to get a little bit more yellow in the hair. You actually do some really cool stuff by actually going in here and actually drawing it too. Let's say I really want that hair to pop out, but I don't want a yellow face. So I'll just zoom up here. I can take this and color it in just on the hair using the saturation tool, pulling out the yellow in just the hair area without adjusting any yellow on the face or any other part of the design. There we go there. Let's see what that looks like. Woo, okay. That's too much yellow, so we'll take it back. But I wanted to show you how it works anyway. That's where I'm at with our OG band punk rock photo. I think it looks pretty good. It's a little bit more pasteled out, which is fine because we can always make some modifications on press, but let's go to print. The cool thing about Separation Studio is it integrates directly with AccuRIP. So all I have to do is hit print and it will automatically print directly into AccuRIP. So you can see all of our channels here. We got them all turned on. And then we got our print size is already set up. Our media size is already set up, 13x19 films, 11.5-inch wide print. A few things, I like using a little bit different types of registration marks here. And I'm gonna be using the center marks. And then I'm gonna go to media placement and I'm gonna go to center so that it centers everything out in the direct center of the film, which I'm gonna save those settings and the separation. Close this, and I'm just gonna check something real fast here. I saw something on that film that I did not like, a halftone gradient. So I'm gonna clean that up one more time. That's a cool thing about that preview before we go to print the films is that allows us to really double check things. So now I'm seeing 0 right there. Still looks good, but I don't have that halftone kind of haze, which can happen in some of the colors, and we definitely want to avoid that. I'm just gonna go through the rest of the colors here and make sure that that's not there. So now we'll go back to print. Very cool, and I hit print. So you can see it opens directly to AccuRIP. There we have it. We can see all of our different settings and bases here. We can go through them right there. And this is another opportunity to see anything that you might not like in the separation. Everything looks good to me, however. We got this hooked up to our Canon printer. We'll select our halftone and halftone screen line, LPI and angle, which for this I'm gonna do 45 and I'm gonna do a 22.5. That's the standard defaults, and it's what I typically find and use in Spot Process Separation Studio. Once that's all set, we're ready to print the films. Once our films are printed using AccuRIP, it's time to take them to the darkroom and make our screens. For screen selection, we typically take our LPI and times it by 4 or 5 to give us our base level of screen mesh, meaning that this 45 should be at least around a 200, but we're gonna use a 230 for our base. Since we're using some high detail on the overprint and some thinner inks, we're actually going up a screen. So for our base white, as well as our top white, we're gonna be using 230 mesh. But for our colors, since we don't want this ink to build too much on our press, we're gonna go up a mesh to 280, really limiting that ink and giving us a nice soft hand with fine detail. When exposing your screens, you want to make sure that your detail exposed thoroughly and that you rinsed out all your halftones before you go on press. Screens are dried and set up, it's time to get on press. Today we're going to be using Allmade's AL2100 organic cotton shirt, which prints beautifully, doesn't have any dye migration issues, so we're using a simple cotton white. It's going to print great through that 230 mesh. For our colors, we're using these Rio colors that we picked in the system. Now I can already tell I made a change on press, which is very easy to do. Sometimes you see colors pretty good in the system, but that lemon yellow is just too bright. So I went with just the standard yellow, which is a nice medium yellow. You can either use inks out of the buckets, especially if you modulate them, but if you want them to get a little bit more flow, you can put just a little bit of Fashion Soft, maybe 5% by weight, and mix it around to give a nice even flow in that ink. So we'll get our inks on press first and make sure we're registered. We're gonna flash the underbase and then the rest will be printed wet on wet. But during registration, I'm gonna actually flash between each color to see what's going on. For this type of printing, I actually like to use a push print. It gives me a nice controlled angle and allows me to get good pressure through that high mesh. Just making sure that I have a good clearance on here, especially with that first print. Looks pretty good. The cool thing about Separation Studio is it actually puts and prints your ink color in the screen itself, so you can verify that this is the red before putting it in press. You notice I'm keeping my registration marks open so that I can see if they're printing right. Looks like that red needs to come up just a little bit, so I'll probably just pull that one. Load the screen up. This is going to be a push print. Ink is flowing nicely. I'm going to print all the way through those halftones so you can ensure they register. That's looking pretty good too. Here we have our yellow. You don't need a lot of ink on the screens unless you're going to do a high volume run, as long as you have enough to flood the print. All right, now let's load the violet. Perfect. And finally the white top, which we'll use to really make that white pop in these opaque areas. Once we've confirmed registration, we'll go and take it off and we're ready to print. Now, no, wait, hold on, not quite yet. The way this ink actually works is it's meant to mix together wet on wet. So we want to run 4 or 6 shirts off first to allow that ink to start to build on the back of the screen. And we are finally at our top white here. As you can see, this ink is really building nicely on the back of our screens. This print came out really nice. Nice retro look, nice soft hand using those high mesh screens, and really great Wilflex inks. But I do want to show the first print that we registered versus the last one. I think it was the 5th print coming off the press. You can see how much more saturated this print already is because of that buildup. That's probably going to even go a little bit more over time. That's why we don't want to start production right away. So we're going to print a couple off, let that ink build up before we start. You can see that saturation really start to come through. First print I've done in Separation Studio in over 8 years, and it was easier than ever. It turned out great, really like the result. Check out Separation Studio on screenprinting.com, now available. Comment if you have any questions on this video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and thank you for powering the print with Ryonet.